Good morning, and thank you for joining us for an excellent webinar we have lined up for you this morning called Improving Traffic Flow Using Timely Road Information. My name is Fahad Shuja. I am the OPS and the Technical Products and Research Coordinator at the Ontario Good Roads Association. I will be taking just a few moments to set the stage for you, and then we'll be bringing in our speakers to run the program with us. I would like you to imagine a scenario where an ambulance needs to get to a hospital. The ambulance is carrying somebody who needs to be at the hospital as quickly as possible. The driver knows path to the hospital. They believe it takes about 8 minutes to get to that destination. What they don't know is that something has happened on that road and they will no longer be able to take that. Instead, they will have to do a detour, which is going to take about 18 minutes, maybe 10 minutes over of what their estimated time was. While this is happening and the delay is about to happen, the patient is not getting any better. The same situation though also applies to maybe not as in a life-death situation, but or maybe it could be. It would apply to a freight truck trying to get the product to the destination. It would also apply to anybody who is running out of gas and wants to get to the gas station. Or it might simply apply to any one of us trying to go get back home after a day of work or wherever we were coming from. So in other words, what all these scenarios have in common is the lack of information. Had we had that information in advance, we would have maybe saved minutes or hours or maybe lives just by knowing the information in advance. There was a survey done. There was a report done by CAA in 2017, and according to that report, we Canadians lose about 11.5 million hours in traffic delays every year, and these delays amount for about 22 million liters of fuel per year. So this is not a small problem, and if you have ever crossed across GTA, you know exactly what this does. So all of this can be tracked back into timely road information. Had we known what's up ahead, and the navigation companies are doing a wonderful job, but had we known all that information a bit in advance, we think that the situation would be much better. The scenarios will fold out much nicer. So from the prospect of the Ontario Good Roads Association, we have taken it upon ourselves to try and bring 100% of municipalities on the same level playing ground, where they should be able to communicate all the critical information with one another, the neighboring municipalities, as well as the first responders and any other stakeholders that may benefit from that information. And one of the key software or the digital ways that we're doing that is through a system called a data exchange called the Ontario Road Information Exchange, ORI. This is what we will be talking about today. And in addition to that, ORI is now plugged into the Ontario Road Network. So ORI and ORN are really the two pieces of two solution pieces that are working amazingly well together. And we would like to show you a bit more about that. And we're going to do that through, of course, our esteemed speakers this morning. We have 3 speakers who will be sharing more details with us on each of those 2 solutions and also the benefits that can come out of that. So Steve DeMaya from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. Then we have Jody McLaren from Grey County. And then we have Doug Allport from Transgenomic Solutions. We're going to go with the sequence of beginning with Steve, then Jody, and then Doug, and then we'll all come back together for a Q&A. In the meanwhile, should you have any questions, feel free to post them, and we will address that all together near the end in the panel discussion. So with that, if you give me just 1 second, I'm going to transfer it over to Steve.
Okay, I'm just going to set up my audio webcam here.
Yeah. Hi, Steve. Good morning.
Morning.
All over to you now. So
okay.
I think right now I see your presentation window. Maybe.
I'm just going to make sure I set up the correct screen here. Give me a second here.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see my presentation now? Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Take it away. Yeah.
Great. So I appreciate the opportunity to join in this webinar, and I always appreciate the opportunity to showcase our Ontario ORN Network product that we at the Government of Ontario do on behalf for the citizens of Ontario. So I've been the project manager in Provincial Mapping Unit of the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry in Peterborough. I've been with the Ontario government for about over 20 years now. In the geospatial community, my background is GIS and mapping. So I've been working on the Ontario Road Network for about 5 years now as a project manager. And so today I'm going to cover an overview of the ORN. I'll cover what the ORN is all about. I'll cover our ORN maintenance process, talk about our database and standards that we use to maintain the ORN and the public-facing open data products. The outcome of the presentation, so you'll be able to understand the key features of the ORN, the fact that it's provincial scale for data, for mapping data, but the fact that the data is standardized from one part of the province to the other, and then the data we use to maintain the ORN is authoritatively sourced. So what is the ORN? So the ORN is a provincial scale database of about 250,000 kilometers of municipal roads, provincial highways, and resource and recreation roads. So you can see we have, you see my mouse here? If you look down the southern parts of Ontario, we have all municipal roads down here and across other parts of central and northern Ontario. We also have resource roads in the unorganized areas, as well as winter roads and roads in the First Nation communities in the far north of Ontario. So it's full provincial scale coverage. The ORN's been around for about 20 plus years. It originally was in partnership with the federal government with the National Road Network. So it started about 20 years ago in the early 90s, or sorry, late 90s, I should say. So it's a foundation geospatial data product. So what we mean by that, and maybe we're familiar with the base data product. So it supports a wide range of mapping requirements. So anything from emergency services to supporting forest management planning, transportation, other sorts of natural resource management. So if you think about mapping, it's hard to think of a map without roads on it. So our user base of the ORN is wide ranging. So the ORN is it's funded through the Ontario government's Land Information Ontario partners. There's about roughly about 20 ministries across the government of Ontario that fund the ORN on an annual basis, anywhere from Natural Resources, which I'm in, Ministry of the Environment and Conservation and Parks, to Northern Development Mines, so MTO. A lot of partners feel the ORN is important enough to fund on an annual basis. The data that we get in from the ORN, so I work with about 100 municipalities across Ontario to bring in data to support the ORN. Those are our authoritative sources. We also bring in data from one of our sister ministries, Ministry of Transportation, who provides us the authoritative data for provincial highways, includes the 400 series and other smaller highways like Highway 7 and whatnot. We typically try and stick with upper tier municipalities where we can, because in a lot of those cases it reduces the workload. A lot of regional municipalities, so you think of Region of Niagara or Toronto or Durham, they're doing a lot of the legwork already with the lower tier municipalities. So you think of Durham, there's Oshawa and Whitby and whatnot. And they're already doing the work to bring in data and standardize it at their regional scale. And so we partner with them where we can to bring that information in to maintain the ORN. So we also work with other government ministries like transportation I talked about, Ontario Parks for roads and provincial parks. We also work with local roads boards, so the areas of the province that are unorganized outside of any organized municipality, we work with those folks to bring in data in those parts of the province. And we also work with other business areas in our own ministry to bring in data from forest resource partners. So you think about resource roads for forestry or recreation out in the country. We also try and maintain that data as well on a provincial scale. So maintenance. So the ORN is maintained and supported by 5 dedicated staff and a project manager as myself. So we have 3 main editors and a lead editor, as well as a couple other staff that support the custom tools and database development we do for the ORN. So we update roads. Typically, you update roads for about 90 to 98% of the population in Ontario on an annual basis. So that population might seem a little confusing, but we think about when we get data in from municipalities, each municipality will have a population to them. So you think about, say, Toronto is about 20% of Ontario's population, and you think about other municipalities that feed in. And so every year we try and make sure that we accumulate enough municipal updates to get at least to 90% and up to 98%. You also see in the map here the yellow areas, which are our resource road areas that we've updated. So those are actually M&R district boundaries. And that's the way we bring in the resource road information to update that information as well. So update frequencies vary depending on municipality. In some cases, we're getting updates on a monthly basis. Sometimes it's quarterly, sometimes it's semi-annually, or it's annually. And sometimes it might take a couple of years to get things. It all depends on the capacity of the municipality and their GIS capacity. In other cases, it just depends on how long it takes us to do an update. So somewhere like Toronto might take quite a while to do an update, depending on how big the update is. And in other areas, it might be a lot sooner, or a lot easier to do that. So yeah, so it varies across the board. So the ORN maintenance process. So we do the source data is processed to detect changes into standardized attributes. So we do if you look at the diagram here, we typically bring in data and we do a change detection where we compare the last data delivery to the most current one. So you think about if a municipality gave us data in March, and then if they gave us another update in April, we would compare April to March and see what's changed over time. And then we also standardize information. So information coming in from municipalities can vary from a municipality to another. Every municipality has different business requirements for roads data. And so what we do is we standardize it from one part of the province, one part of the province to the other. So a roundabout in let's say Niagara would look exactly the same as a roundabout in Kenora, or the number of lanes in a multi-lane road will look the same in Toronto as it does in York, as well as the attributes. So any attributes as far as, abbreviations for street names and whatnot, that all gets standardized. And when you change detection, the data gets processed and it gets put into an editing version that gets edited by one of our editors. And then that gets stored into our editing database. So we have custom tools that we use to update the ORN, and all that information gets then posted as a version into our corporate database, and then that gets passed off to what we have, which is called our LEO, or Land Information Ontario warehouse. And from that, it gets pushed out to our Ontario GeoHub, which is where we provide out our open data. So anyone is able to download that information from that site there. I'll talk about that in the next slide. So the ORN, it's one dedicated, so like I said before in the database, it's one dedicated editing environment. That's that gray box down here. We provide out 2 open data products. So the ORN is stored in a linear referencing system. So it requires an advanced knowledge of GIS and linear referencing to understand how to use that information. Linear referencing, for those who don't know, is where you have a linear element, which is like a road segment or a road line feature, and on that you can have attribute information that's tied to those road elements by measurement. So if you look at the diagram here, you can see how you can have one road feature with multiple unlimited numbers of attributes, but they're tied to the feature by measurement. So from this measurement to this measurement, it has a certain address range, and from here to here, it has a different one. From this measurement here, from here, there's a bridge. You can also have the road surface, speed limits and whatnot. So all those things that change along the linear feature, they're all stored in event tables, where event tables are basically like a type of attribute information. The 2 open data products that we have, which are available through Ontario GeoHub, so you can just Google Ontario GeoHub and you'll be able to find our data. If you go onto there, you type in ORN, you can find it. There's 2 of them. There's Road Element, which is linear referencing system, which has all the attributes that we carry. The more simplified version, which is used by probably about 99% of the people that use the ORN, is the ORN segment of the address. And that's simply a simplified derivative of the linear referencing system database. So it's standard feature class GIS data with a flat standard table. So yeah, and so like I mentioned before, all the data that we have for the ORN that's out to the public is covered on Ontario's open government license, so you're free to use it as you wish. You just have to reference the source. I guess my last slide here. So the ORNs, we have ORN standards. So when our editors maintain the ORN, they bring in information from across the province and the many different municipalities that we work with. The information, like I said before, comes in different formats. So, one municipality might store roundabouts different than another one. They might do slip lanes differently, or walkways, or even resource roads. In a lot of cases are different. And also with a number of lanes. So we standardize all of that information across the province. And for quite a period of time, we were relying on the federal government's National Road Network Guide to Best Practices for Acquisition, which was put out, updated back in 2009. And we were finding problems where there was a lot of road features that something were covered in those standards. And so we went ahead and based off of that federal guide, we've now put out a new ORN data capture specifications. So it's called the data capture specifications for RoadNet elements that can be found from our GeoHub page on the metadata records right there. You can download that directly from there. And those were completed and put out in 2019. And so those are the guidelines that editors use to standardize attribute and geometry information for all of our roads. So we update information for roundabouts, slip lanes, walkways, and resource roads. I think the walkways are, it's actually Toronto Island there. And slip lanes are obviously, when you have intersections and whatnot, and then roundabouts are pretty obvious. So yeah, that's really what we use to make sure the information is standard across the province. About that. I think it's everything I have for the ORN. Yeah, if you have any questions, this is my contact information and my email address. We also have an email address for our provincial mapping, which is pmu@ontario.ca. So any questions about the ORN or any of our open data products, feel free to contact us at that email address. It's pmu@ontario.ca, or you can contact me directly and I can make sure that you get in contact with the person that's leading any of our products. So yeah, so thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you, Steve, and you'll be sticking by with us, and we'll come all together at the end to have the Q&A. I did see there's a posted question, but we'll address it all together at the end.
Sure,
but now, thank you, Steve. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said thank you.
Oh yeah, no, you're welcome. So our next speaker is Doug Allport. So Doug, I will make you presenter and take it away.
There we go. Excuse me. Good morning. My name is Doug Allport, and I manage the Municipal 511. Sorry about that. I manage the Municipal 511 and Ontario Road Information Exchange for Transnomus Solutions. Transnomus is an Ontario technology company that is focused on road information management and communications for agencies with road information and all that need it. So during this presentation, I'll be presenting what the exchange is, including why we need it, who is behind it, how you can connect to it, and where to find more information. So the simplest way to describe the Ontario Road Information Exchange is to do a comparison with the Ontario Road Network. And as Steve has just presented, the Ontario Road Network aggregates and formats authoritative road data from provincial, municipal, and private stakeholders to the benefit of provincial, municipal, mapping and navigation companies, application developers, and other stakeholders. The Ontario Road Information Exchange has a similar mission with a focus of the status of the Ontario roads. And we use the ORN as our base map, but we're talking about what's happening on top of that base map. So which roads are closed, under construction, or flooded? What are the truck routes, hazardous material routes, load restrictions, and height restrictions? And we do this for now and in the future. Today, about half of Ontario municipalities are sharing their information through the exchange. So why is this exchange important? Well, the initial use case was for municipal, for mapping road closures for emergency responders. They need to arrive on time to help all of us. And our Ontario paramedics in particular serve entire regions and counties, and they must respond in neighboring regions and counties using local, regional, provincial, and private roads. There are many places in Ontario where a culvert replacement results in 30 to 60-minute detours around lakes and mountains, and often is the case where it's better to dispatch an ambulance from another direction or even another municipality. So the common practice of sending emails to communicate road information does not work for them, and quite honestly, it never has. So they need the information from dozens of municipalities aggregated and presented in their navigation applications, and they need it in real time. And today, many of them have that taking place for every call, every day. Now, they're not the only ones. Truckers need information for all roads in the province, and no one until now has been working on presenting them with all of the truck routes, restrictions, and cautions. The Eastern Ontario bridge on the left was struck by 3 large trucks in a single day. The truck on the right hit a common target in southwestern Ontario. So if we make this easy for the navigation companies, they have the opportunity to improve their routing practices for both small and large vehicles. Waze and Google are very popular solutions for small vehicles and do an exceptional job at it, but they don't serve the larger vehicles. To address this gap, we need to share road information with companies like HERE and TomTom that provide road information to Garmin, Rand McNally, and other commercial navigation applications that are used by commercial carriers. Looking ahead, well, actually, we could say right now, we now have connected and autonomous vehicles on our roads, and they don't read emails and faxes. They need information about our roads in electronic format. So how do we do that efficiently and effectively? And if we look within municipalities and the provincial government, we can see that there are a long list of stakeholders who need better road information to perform to their potential. Primary use cases avoiding the conflicting use of roads between local, regional, and provincial stakeholders, or adjoining municipalities, particularly on boundary roads or where roads are intersecting. Use cases include emergency detours into construction zones, multiple roads in one area under construction, which ties up an entire area, permit conflicts that conflicted with maybe a construction zone and an oversized load. So in the image you see presented, this was actually something that came up because it was visual, where a detour route was going into a special event and it was caught before the special event took place. So we at Transnomus have been working on this problem for the last 4 years. And today, the Municipal 511 web service is aggregating and sharing electronic road information from more than 200 municipalities. The service is typically deployed by county, region, or district. It serves municipalities from across Ontario, and this year supported a winter ice road in Northern Cochrane District. Now, when it became clear that Ontario municipalities were embracing this new model of road information sharing, it also became clear that we were missing 2 pieces. We needed good governance, and we needed a simpler service for the cities and regions that had procured or developed custom solutions that were capable of producing and sharing digital road information from the tools that they already had. So we presented our vision to the management and then the board of directors of the Ontario Good Roads Association. And soon after, we announced we were establishing the Ontario Road Information Exchange. A key first step was good governance. The OGRA, Ontario Road Information Exchange Governance Committee, was established to oversee the mission, goals, scope, distribution policy, and data types for the exchange of road information, including the data that was already being shared through Municipal 511. This committee includes municipal experts from different municipal departments, the 407 ETR, emergency responder associations, and the Ontario Trucking Associations. Now, the mission of the Ontario Road Information Exchange is to facilitate the efficient electronic distribution of authoritative road information in near real time from all capable systems to the direct benefit of OGRA's municipal members and travelers of Ontario roads. Now, in my view, an exchange is the most efficient distribution model for geospatial information collection with this many stakeholders. Some will say that open data or GIS layers is a better answer, but from experience and with other systems of this scale and larger, it becomes clear that open data means that every municipal, provincial, and private stakeholder that needs the information must engineer to each open data feed or GIS layer. With an exchange, all of the data is available in a single feed in a common format that is easily captured and filtered by type, location, time, and source. To share information with all the other stakeholders, simply connect to the exchange and share it with all that other information, aggregated and formatted. So in this case, ORI and ORN are doing much the same thing, just different bits of road information data. Now, to participate in the Ontario Road Information Exchange, it is a subscription service. It costs pennies per month per population. You connect the application you want to connect with, whether it's your GIS, dispatch system, a traffic system, what have you. And if you want some help doing that, Grey County, and Jody's speaking after me from Grey County, has shared some custom code on GitHub that they use to connect their GIS to the exchange in Municipal 511 and to remove and to capture and take data out of those systems back into their system. Now I'll spend just a little bit more time here on the digital format. The digital format that the exchange supports is the issue type, so things like construction, special event, maintenance of the road, emergency road closures. The location types, so in one data issuance, you can have where the issue is taking place. You can also have a detour, and you could also include a truck detour or a one-way detour. So we support all these different location types. And then what's really important is that we support the traffic impact type. What is the impact to the stakeholders, and especially the responders and other travelers? But Is there a lane closed? Is there alternating traffic? Perhaps it's intermittently blocked. What if it's a road closure? Who is it closed to? And this is a common point of confusion. Is it closed to just local traffic, or can emergency responders as well? Now, if you participate in the Ontario Road Information Exchange, you will also have your road information presented in the Municipal 511 public map. There is no other collection of local, regional, and provincial roads like this in North America. It's one of a kind as far as North America goes. And the other thing about it is, as an ORI participant, you may embed this map in your website and present visitors to your page with what is happening on all the roads in your municipality now in the next 7 days. So instead of visitors coming to your site and in most cases seeing a list or maybe having to sort through your notifications, your news feed, they can go to a map and see what's happening on local, regional, and provincial roads, and if they're participating on private road operator roads as well, all within your municipality. We've made that easy to do. It takes minutes at the most to actually do that. So for more information about the Ontario Road Information Exchange, you may visit the Ontario Good Roads Association ORI committee webpage, or reach out to me or Fahad. I would just like to take a moment as I wrap things up here to acknowledge the leadership role Fahad and OGR have taken in delivering this world-class capability. We are not aware of anyone else doing this in North America. We are very proud to note that we are about halfway to serving the entire province, with over 200 municipalities already sharing their road information in a digital format through the Ontario Road Information Exchange. So Fahad, I'll turn it over back to you.
Thank you, Doug. Wonderful presentation, and thank you for the support that you've provided to all the municipalities, to OGRA, to the province. And I think that we'll have some more, we still see some questions coming in, but I'm just holding off to the end of the discussion so that we can do it together. Next presenter for us is Jody McAcklearn. And Jody, I'm going to give you access. Hi, Jody. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Fahad. And I'll just get my presentation started here.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, so yeah, maybe you got to switch off because this one, yeah.
Yep, there we are.
Perfect. Take it away.
Great, thanks. I'm just going to spend some time talking about how Grey County is using ORN and ORI data. I'm probably going to reiterate some of the points that Doug and Steve have met. And just right off the bat, I'll say that I sit on the ORI Governance Committee as an IT representative. I think it's important to advocate for the use and development in ORI that represents municipal stakeholders and to be that advocate for positive change. So in terms of ORN and ORI, we use them in similar fashion in that we are trying to create that timely and accurate, authoritative picture of our regional road network and not just those roads that the county is directly responsible for. So we're both contributors submitting data on regarding our roads into these models, and we're also consumers. We pull the data back out to get that regional picture. In Grey County, we have roads that are maintained by 11 separate jurisdictions. So there's 3 provincial highways, of course, the county roads, and we have 9 lower tier municipalities that are responsible for roads. So speaking specifically to ORN, like most municipalities, we've contributed our data to ORN for a number of years as is. We've also encouraged GPS companies, mapping companies, any organization really responsible for dispatch and navigation to use our data. And that's often driven by known cases or anecdotes of commercial GPSs leading people down, roads that don't have winter maintenance or private lanes. As municipalities move to open data, we followed suit. And open data has some great benefits for municipal government. It promotes transparency. It allows companies that want that data to acquire it without much added overhead, from from internal staff time. Staff don't have to make agreements and prepare and deliver the data. But for cases like this, it's still a challenge. So if we think about the road data that we have, and again, if we want to distribute that information, we have this idea of an information ecosystem. Even if we're proactively trying to find the companies and encourage them to use our open data, there are just so many that it can be, a daunting task. This graphic that I'm showing now kind of gives a representation of what that ecosystem looks like, and the stakeholders who are interested in a jurisdiction's road data. So the most obvious, of course, is emergency services, police, fire, and ambulance, but you also have school boards, transit companies, school bus companies. Media often reports on this, and so they want information regarding traffic in the area, as well as the GPS navigation companies that Doug mentioned, Waze and Google and TomTom and here. This is a challenge for municipalities, as you can imagine, but it's a far greater challenge for the stakeholder themselves, who would have to do this for all the jurisdictions in their operating area, which, if that was all of Ontario, that's 444 municipalities. So if municipalities are feeding that data into ORN, we can be updating a single source, and the stakeholders can get the most authoritative road network from all of Ontario in a single source. And that saves them, as Doug said, the effort of reformatting that data, dealing with inconsistencies in the data format or the accuracy and how to join up on border roads and issues like that. So for road event information, I guess not that long ago, ORN was the primary source of navigation data for Ontario, and the only one that companies would need. Even when I started in Grey County, our paramedics relied on, old school standalone GPS units that had to be plugged into a computer to take a mapping update. Most of those companies now, and apps like Google, Apple, and Waze, can use information that pertains to temporary road events as well, because they're connected. So a municipality trying to share this information with stakeholders faces essentially the same challenge as I described for the road network. For the stakeholders, however, this is a far steeper challenge, because there is far less standardization around this type of data, and far fewer organizations are releasing a comparable open data set. But as I'll show in some specific examples, or when I talk about paramedics, this is a very essential aspect of navigation, especially around emergency services. By creating this data in Municipal 511 or sharing it into ORI, municipalities are creating a common source for the data. They're standardizing the data types and the formats. And again, this includes the type of issues that municipalities are collecting and the details that describe those issues. As far as I'm concerned, that really increases the impact of government data sets, because as far as stakeholders are concerned, and again, this includes public work departments that could be your neighbors, could be your lower tier municipalities, you're getting a much more meaningful picture of the road network and what's going on around you, and not just a small piece of that puzzle for every open data set that you need to acquire. So using our paramedics department as an example, our paramedics department regularly operate in 7 counties and well over 25 lower tiers. They make regular trips to health centers in Toronto, London, and Guelph, and they could be required to respond to calls while they're en route. We used to rely on paper map books and standalone GPSs in the trucks, and we couldn't have kept that navigation system such as it was up to date if it weren't for ORN. In terms of information that impacted traffic or impacted the road network, we relied on an information network, which is emails, faxes, phone calls. And it was really up to the drivers to acquire that information and remember it when they're out on a call. And if you were relying on one of those old school, not connected GPS units, that could very easily send the ambulance into a construction zone where they're not going to meet their call times, or they're going to have to turn around and add time to a call to get onto the detour. Now we're using Municipal 511 and to create our road event issues as are our lower tiers. So whether that's a winter road closure or construction or a special event, we're putting it into Municipal 511, and it is in turn available through ORI. That data is now automatically integrated with Interdev's CADlink program. So not only are our paramedics getting a heads-up display of road issues while they're on call, but the software is actually incorporating that temporary road information into their navigation algorithms and avoiding road closures. Some other uses that I would like to highlight briefly. Ever since we started showing winter road closures to the public, we've been challenged to explain what the scope of the mapping was. Oftentimes, residents don't really appreciate the difference between, an upper tier and a lower tier road. And when you're showing a map that shows road closures or even winter conditions, that has to be perfectly clear. And so we were really hoping to find a solution that allowed us to create that picture of road conditions and issues within Greene County. And with Municipal 511, we have it. So ORI allows us to capture that data. As Doug said, we have tools that pull the data out so we can integrate with our own GIS. And we really do that to simplify the messaging and make sure that we're just showing the stuff on the roads within Grey County. But you could also point residents towards the public mapping, towards Municipal 511. We are also using that tool to create maps of roads that have spring weight restrictions, as well as the special events that happen within the county. In closing, I think one thing I would like to mention is that we are going to be giving a similar talk to the Municipal Information Systems Association annual conference in June. That's the Association for IT Professionals in Ontario Municipalities. And if there's enough interest, we can certainly talk about technical aspects of the solutions there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Really appreciate your presentation, and also thank you for your time that you spend with us on the Ontario Road Information Exchange Governance Committee. It's really appreciated. Now, with that, all for our formal speakers have completed their part, and I would like to invite back Steve and Doug back with their camera so that we can maybe have an overall discussion and help answer any questions that are out there right now. So while they're doing that, I would like to invite all of the attendees, if you want to take a moment, go into the Q&A part and just put in your questions there. We do have a few already, but go ahead and start doing that now, and then we'll address it, as many of them as possible. First of all, thank you all. Wonderful presentations. I think we heard about what ORN is all about, what ORI is all about, and how those two come together in various GIS models, and how they're being practically used, and that's what Jody sort of touched into. The questions are, of course, they're going to be all thrown to each one of you. As they've come in, I've just given them priority now. So the first question is, does ORN have a downloadable app for field use? So I guess Steve.
No, we don't get into developing applications. What we do have is, if you go on to the Land Information Ontario GeoHub, the data is available as either featured classes, like a shapefile or a file geodatabase for direct download to your own computer. But it's also available through web services, so through feature services. So there are a lot of organizations that take the ORN through a web service and apply it directly to their application. So,
Doug, do you want to touch on that a little bit, or?
Well, I think that one was specific to ORN. We use in Municipal 511, it's a web service, so you can use it on a mobile device. You can put content in from the scene using your current location as well. So you can click on you can set it up that there's a button on your home screen, click on it, add an emergency road closure at your location, and populate the map from there and have that distributed immediately.
The other
I
question
will
we
also
have
say,
is, sorry,
just
go
one more
ahead.
thing to add there. So we don't have any specific application for the ORN, but we do have what we call our Land Information Ontario make a topographic map, which is basically an annual snapshot of all our foundational data. And that is mobile friendly. It's a web mapping application, but it's not specific to the ORN. So.
Okay, the other question is, do you have, and this goes back to Steve again, I believe, do you have any stat summary for historical lane kilometers in Ontario or GGH?
No, we don't get into that. No, we have we store a number of lanes, speed limits, surface type, a lot of information like that, but we don't get into historical information.
Do you keep any sort of data like that, Steve? And then just a follow up from my own side, do you have what was the total road number in last year versus the year before? Do you keep that data to yourself?
We don't do those stats. We do have for a number of years annual snapshots that we keep. And in some cases, we'll have folks that are doing some sort of historical analysis or change detection over the years. And so for a number of years, we have kept annual snapshots so you can take a look at the ORN from one year to the next. So we don't get into providing stats. So, but anyone's free to download the information and request historical information to try and create those stats themselves. So, yeah.
Fair enough. The next question we have is, do you have plan to incorporate collision statistics and speeding on the roads? I don't know which one would that go to. Maybe start with ORN.
We wouldn't do that on the ORN. No, that we wouldn't get there.
When that's not data we capture. That's data. Some of that data you can get from Waze as a Waze partner, but we don't have collision. We would have data on where an incident's been reported if it was reported by the municipality. Typically, if it was associated with a road closure.
Now we have, there's some more questions here. Give me 1 second, sorry. Okay, so the question is, how are things like permanent street direction changes and closures communicated to both the ORI and Google?
Okay. So what we'll see is if there's been a traffic change, that would be added to Municipal 511. Similarly, that should go to the ORN so that it's in the permanent database of any different uses of that road. And then it could be mapped in the system as a traffic change, and that could be posted on the maps and shared with stakeholders that there has been a change.
And Steve, I guess in the ORN side, you talked a little bit about speed limits and them being part of the linear data. So do you have, is there a way for municipalities to show where the spans are in the roads where their speed limit is a certain amount? So if it's a 70 in a given.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to get at with the linear referencing is that we do store speed limit information through linear referencing. So if you want to get the speed limits, you have to get what we call the ORN RoadNet element, which is the full suite of attribute information. And so it'll show from a certain measurement to another. So from one point to the next, it'll show the speed limit, say 50. And after that, there'll be another element or event that'll say it's gone up to 70 or whatnot. We don't get speed information for all municipalities, but what you can do so what we recommend to some folks, if they have to figure out what speed limits are, they can generally take road class and apply a generalized speed limit, right? So it's a local road, you could say 50 kilometers, right? We definitely have a placeholder for speed limit for all municipalities across Ontario. We just don't get it, right? And in some cases, it's a matter of the municipalities and the capacity to store that information. So.
And yeah. Does that speed limit, can that change based on what type of road? Or so, for instance, if you look at school zones, right, the speed limit might change depending on time of the day. Does ORN take care of that?
No, we don't do time of day. So we simply rely on, if we have speed limit information, it's coming from municipality.
Okay. And
So
do they provide? Sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead. It's fine.
So let's say that the municipality wants to show what is the, maybe not about the time of the day, but if there's a certain school zone, can they give you that information separately and in addition to the actual road speed minus the school zone?
We don't get into temporal information for speed limits. It's just simply what's the standard speed limit for that road.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we have one more question.
That would be something perhaps that we could do in the exchange at a future date, Fahad.
Right. Into ORI, that's something that could be done.
Yes.
Do you have any stat on road construction growth in Ontario? So I guess that would go back to either ORI or Municipal 511.
We wouldn't have anything that we've done any analytics on at this time, but we do have historic data on construction areas and length of projects, time and date, that kind of thing. And using the ORN in ORI, in Municipal 511, we'd be able to identify which segments those were on.
Can you explain about the MTO-I corridor and how it is related to your activity?
Not sure I fully understand the question, but I would share that we are consuming Ministry of Transportation Ontario 511 road data into both Municipal 511 and the exchange so that we have a more complete data set. So when a municipality, I talked about municipalities embedding the public website in their web pages, you will actually see what's happening on the highways as well as the arterial, the county regional roads and the lower single tier municipalities. But I'm not sure I fully comprehend the question though, Fahad.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about the I corridor. Is that the Ontario 511 question? Maybe if Ray, could you repost that question and we'll certainly get back to it. The other question was, is there a cost to these programs?
So I'll let you start, Steve, because you got the better answer.
Okay. Well, the cost is already covered through the taxpayers of Ontario. So the Ontario Road Network is covered under the Ontario government's open data license. So you're free to use the data as you wish, as long as you reference the source. So any private citizen, academia, company can use that to help better their business. And that's why we create the ORN, to support Ontario and support Ontario's economy. So.
And the Ontario Road Information Exchange is a for-fee subscription service. It's pennies per month. If you're a Municipal 511 subscriber, you already have all the benefits of the Ontario Road Information Exchange included in your subscription fee. And that fee is designed to be affordable to municipalities of all sizes. And we are supporting over 200 Ontario municipalities that are subscribed to the service.
Jody, can I put you on the spot and get your thoughts on the pricing model and the value that it provides Grey County?
Yeah, sure. We're absolutely fine with the price of this product. And part of the reason is when we first started showing winter road conditions on our website, I think we were one of the early Ontario municipalities to do so. And it was a successful project that we did, but it also highlighted how much more there was to do in that type of work. And that, as I said in my talk, we were only showing we were only showing data around the roads that the county was responsible for. And so one of the things we needed was a tool that allowed, in particular, our lower tier municipalities to contribute data into it, but also something that would be used by our neighbors. So we didn't really want another custom in-house solution that was managed by us and isolated to us. And that really is the perspective that we had when we joined Municipal 511. And really at the time, I guess we were sold by this idea of a common operating picture, with Public Works being able to see the same data no matter which level of government they were in our region, and making sure that police and ambulance could see that data. We weren't even thinking at that point about actually having this integrated with InterDev CADLink, which is, that alone would have been worth the price again. So we definitely are seeing that value. So yeah.
Fahad, if I could just add one more thing to the question about pricing. When we started this, we looked at an experience that I had with public safety systems prior to Municipal 511, and we realized that the way this works best is if it's deployed regionally. And so we implemented a pricing model that if it was purchased at the county or region or district level, every public works and every emergency services within that population would be served for the same price. And so that's a lot of work. Jody mentioned, I think there's 11 public works. Renfrew County, there's 19 public works. We don't discriminate between them. The goal is to connect all of this data, and that wasn't being done anywhere else in North America. There was no one talking about doing it at a provincial or national level. And so we implemented a system that could grow to that extent provincially. And fortunately, with OGRA, we now have the exchange and the governance to take it across the province. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think Doug, you've touched it that there's nothing similar to the scale and capacity to what we have in ORI and Municipal 511. And I didn't realize that until after I had a few discussions with a few folks out in California working on the connected autonomous vehicle side. And when we showed them what we're doing with the kind of information that's readily available, the first thought that I heard back from was we should have that in California. And that was a moment of my life where because I'm used to hearing, well, California is going to do it first, and then we'll copy what they're doing. All of a sudden, we have this great tool that's right, within our house, not even, I would say, a backyard. This is an Ontario product, so absolutely, I think it'd be a disservice if OGRA didn't support. And I think that it's a wonderful opportunity for all municipalities to take part on. We have a follow-up question from Sam, and this is in relation to the stats again. I think it goes back to Steve for you. Just to be clear, my question, we're looking for information like, per se, in 2020, in total, 100 lane kilometers were added to road network compared to 2019.
Okay, so sorry, it was,
So
give the example again there. It was,
so say in 2020, in total, 100 lane kilometers were added to road network compared to 2019. So I think he's looking at a snapshot of what happened in year, like what you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah, so we don't, I mean, that's certainly something we could figure out. But you could theoretically take a snapshot of the ORN from last year and compare it to this year, and take a look at the municipal roads and see how many kilometers were added, right? You would just go by road class and do a comparison of total kilometers from one year to the next. So yeah. So
they'll be able to get that information from your website, right?
They would have to download the current copy of the ORN and then request a historical copy from the year before, which they can certainly do. Both will be covered under the open data license. The historical copy they have to do request through Land Information Ontario, which is just lio@ontario.ca. So that's our support folks for data access. So we have a team of staff and one of our sister units that takes care of accessing our open geospatial data, and they'd be happy to help them find the information that they need. So whether they email leo@ontario.ca or pmu@ontario.ca or myself, we can make sure they get in contact with the right person. So.
Perfect. I think we're just about, I'll say 30 seconds away from closing. Any last minutes, maybe I'll just go one by one. If you want to take 10 seconds each and say any last thing that you want to share that you haven't done so already. I'll go with who's ready first. Okay, Doug, go ahead.
I'm going to say something about the Ontario Road Network. When we started Municipal 511, we didn't have the awareness of it. And what we found was neither did most public works departments. And it's become incredibly valuable resources because as they identify a problem with a road, they can update it in the ORN and within months have it, or in sometimes weeks, have it updated in Ontario Road Information Exchange and Municipal 511. So I think it's important we bring attention to ORN.
Perfect. Steve?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Doug, and it's really good to see that that we have a good business case for supporting the ORN. So I've taken some notes here about how Municipal 511 is, how it's used across Ontario, and how important it is that the ORN has updated information. So it's really good to pass information back to our management team, and especially with the certain restraints we have across Ontario right now. So. But yeah, we do appreciate all municipalities that help contribute to the ORN, and it really does help us keep it active and supports a wide range of uses, including this one here. So yeah, we'll appreciate it.
Perfect. Jody?
Yeah, just two quick points, assuming I'm speaking mostly to roads managers here. Chat with your GIS departments. Make sure you are not just contributing to ORN, but also the attributes that they're collecting so they can get a pretty full data set there with things like speed limits and jurisdictions on the roads. And if you're one of the other half of Ontario municipalities who aren't yet on Municipal 511, please check that out as well, because the more complete that picture is, the better it is for all those stakeholders who rely on your data anyways. Thanks.
Thanks, Jody.
Thank you all. Really appreciate your time, and thank you for all the attendees who came joined us. Thank you, and we'll check you guys out again soon. Thank you.